you have your Bibles, would you open them just for a moment to the book of Genesis? The book of Genesis, chapter number 27. Genesis chapter 27. And it may take some of you a little while to get to. It's kind of a hard book to find. It's the book of Genesis, the very first one. And so Genesis 27. And let me encourage you to go by the book table tonight. That's the last night, because tomorrow I'm speaking in the morning, then heading out on a plane. So if you want to get something for your parents, your pastor, your youth pastor, or yourself, you want to get that tonight. Then, let me encourage you, there's a little cartoon advertisement on the table. And what that is, it's called Jose Got the Answer Right. Years ago, is there any Jose's here? Jose, would you stand? Jose got the answer right. Good for you. Give him a hand. That's a blessing. Thank you. You can be seated. He needs more. Okay, you're good. You're good. And so here's kind of how it is. I've been soul winning since age 12. So I'm 64 now. That's like 52 years. And so I've been going out and doing that. Sometimes you'll invite someone to church, and there'll be all these sweet kids and teenagers, and a mean old man will just say, "We don't believe in God," and they'll slam the door. So how do you reach those people? They can't ride the bus. They can't come to a good news club. How are we going to reach them? So the Lord put on my heart many years ago a cartoon. Everybody likes cartoons. And so it's a 17-minute download. You can download it on the app. You can go on the website. It's in 8 languages now. And you'll recognize in English one of the voices is Brother Caleb. It's his voice. He's the gospel guy. And it's just the coolest thing. Our church secretary went out today, soul winning. They knocked on a door and the people spoke Spanish. They only speak English. And in her broken Spanish, she said, "Can the kids watch a cartoon?" She had it downloaded on her phone. Came in the house, showed it to 3 of the kids, and they got saved today. You don't have to be a good talker to be a soul winner. If you have a cell phone, you can win souls to Christ. You can download it in Spanish, download it in English. You could gather a crowd, just hit the button. We've taken televisions into apartment complexes, gathered the crowd, free cartoon, come see it. And we've had dozens of people saved. So let me encourage you, you don't have to have the card. You can download the app on the back, watch it yourself. If you think it's clear and helpful, we show it to all the visitors in our church. All the first-time kid visitors or teenagers, they watch the Jose Gospel cartoon. On our big days, instead of a sermon for the kids, we show them the Jose Gospel cartoon. So, no excuse. Anyone can lead someone to Christ. How many of you right now, you know someone in your school that's not saved? Would you slip your hand up? Okay. How many of you have a neighbor, you're just not sure if they're saved or not? You don't know. How many of you have kids that live on your street somewhere, down the street or apartment complex? Well, there you go. That's your challenge. I'm going to challenge you. In the next 7 days, we're going to see who takes the challenge. Show the cartoon to one person that's unsaved, and then tell me how it goes. All right, so there it is. Anyway, it's right there. Then the Soul Winning Testaments, 100 pages of helps. It's got all the cults in here. It's got where the Catholic Church came from, where they're wrong. Where the Mormon Church came from, where they're wrong. Who started the Jehovah's Witness Church, where they're wrong. It's got Islam, Muhammad in there. I knocked on a door several years ago. Young man about 19 came to the door. I said, "Do you go to church anywhere?" He said, "I'm studying to be a Muslim." I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Really?" I said, "How long?" He said, "About 6 weeks. I'm just getting into it." And I said, "Well, look at this right here. Something changed just now. What did we do?" Something changed. Oh, okay, we're better. And I said, "Look at this. Right here in the Bible, it shows Muhammad had a wife that was 8 years old. Look at this. Is the sound bad? Are we better? We okay in the back? We're okay? Okay. And I said, look at this right here. Muhammad had a wife that was 8 years old. I said, look at it. It's right here in the Bible. In the back pages it was. In the notes he goes, "Well, I didn't say I was all the way in yet." And I was able to lead him to Christ. It's just some practical things there. All right, we're in Genesis 27. Let's just jump right in. Here we go. Genesis 27, here's the background famous people in the Bible: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, grandfather, son, grandson. Here it is. Look down, please. Genesis 27:1. And it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim. Isaac is getting old. He cannot see. He's blind. So he could not see. He called Esau his eldest son and said unto him, Son. And he said unto him, Behold, here am I. He said, Behold, I am old. I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field, and take me some venison. In other words, his daddy said, Son, I'm dying. Go kill a deer, cook it up, and feed me one last meal. To me, it's very humorous. When a woman dies, she says, Bring me the children. Let me see them one more time. When a man dies, he says, Bring me food. Bring me food. The most important piece of furniture to a woman is like a couch. To a man, it's the refrigerator. So there it is. It's in the Bible. And then he says, verse 4, the last phrase, that my soul may bless thee before I die. Verse 21, we find out that his wife has a favorite son. Rebekah likes Jacob. Esau likes Isaac. Esau. Rebekah likes Jacob. So here's the two sons. Let me back up just a second. So here's mom and dad. Dad's getting old. He cannot see. They have two sons, Esau and Jacob. Esau is a man's man. Esau started shaving when he was 9 years of age. He's very hairy. He's an outdoorsman. He likes to kill animals. He likes to see blood. Jacob didn't start shaving until he was about 30. He liked easy bake ovens. He liked the kitchen. He was an indoors boy. He was a mama's boy. Esau was more of daddy's boy. You kind of get the thought here? So his dad says, Go out, kill me an animal, and feed me before I die. He says, okay. And so there's this plot. The plot takes place that Jacob wants this blessing, so he dresses like his brother. He puts a coat of skin on, and he tries to have a deeper voice. He says, Dad, I killed the animal. He says, Who are you? He said, I'm your son Esau. He comes near. He says, Let me feel you. He says, the voice is Jacob's, but the feeling is Esau. By the way, young people, in your life, you'll always do better if you'll follow the word, the voice, and not the feeling. And so he says, I'm your son. Bless me. Verse 24. In the middle it says that my soul may bless thee. Verse 27, the middle part, and he blessed him. He blessed the wrong son. Verse 31, the right son Esau comes in. He says, I'm here that thy soul may bless me. Verse 33, the last part, he shall be blessed. He said, I've already blessed your brother. He's going to get the blessing, and you're not. And on it goes. Skip down to verse 41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing. Now, what did the blessing mean at this time? At this time in history, it meant this. Whichever son, it was always the oldest one, got the blessing, he got double the inheritance. He also became the leader of the family when daddy died. And in this case, he would also be one of the men in the family tree of Jesus Christ. It was a big deal to get the blessing. Well, Jacob said, I want the blessing. Well, the blessing was supposed to go to Esau, so Jacob connived, and his daddy prayed for the wrong son. Gave him the blessing. That's the two words of the message tonight, the blessing. That's it. Father, bless this time we have. Help us. In Jesus' name, amen. So what does this word blessing mean for us today? Here's what it means. Now, here it is. Here's the premise. It means applause. It means acceptance. It means approval. And we all desire it, mostly from our fathers. The Bible just calls it the blessing. Now tonight will be a little bit deep, a little heavy for me. But sometimes before you get the blessings, you've got to pull some things out. Well, a lady in our church years ago had a gallbladder surgery, simple surgery. They cut her open, took the gallbladder out. Well, she didn't get better. After a week, she still had fever, a lot of pain. 2 weeks, fever, a lot of pain. They reopened her up, found 6 sponges that the surgeons never took out of her. Sometimes, young people, God's going to, you're just not getting better. You don't get better. God has to cut you open, do a little spiritual surgery, and take some things out. So I hope tonight, without a sedative, you'll maybe let him do that. Who did not get the blessing? Tonight, there's someone smoking for the very first time. They're lighting up their very first cigarette, maybe their first joint, and they know it causes cancer. They know it's going to hurt them. It's going to shorten their life. It's proven. It's on the packages. But they're taking that first breath tonight because there's someone giving them the blessing. There's a crowd of people applauding them, approving them tonight. They're blessing them. There's someone tonight in America taking their first beer, opening it, and because there's a crowd of guys or girls or a party, they know alcohol doesn't taste good. They know beer stinks. It's rotted water. Yet they're going to drink it. It could cost them their job one day. It could cost them a car wreck that kills people one day. It will shorten their life. It will damage their liver. Could cause them to have a liver transplant one day, but they're going to drink it. How come? Because somehow someone's approving and accepting them. Tonight, there's a girl going through her closet. She's opening the door, and she's picking out clothing tonight that's immodest. It's going to show more leg than she ought to. It's going to accent the top more than it ought to. It's going to accent the rear more than it ought to. It may be see-through, but why is she choosing that outfit? Because she wants someone to notice her and someone to think that she's special. How come? She desires acceptance and approval. There's someone tonight getting their first tattoo. And the needles could cause infection. It could spread disease. And once you get one, it's permanent. You get that girl's name on your neck. You don't marry her. You got it permanent. And your little kid's going to say, Dad, why is Jennifer's name on your neck? And Mama's name is Sonia. And you're going to have to explain that the rest of your life. And the naked pictures or the pot or the bad language. We got people tattooed all over our church. Someone said, can we come to your church? We got tattoos. I said, it's a requirement. And it almost is in our church. Tonight, there's someone getting their first piercing. And I'm not talking about ears and the earrings. I'm talking about ears. I'm talking about maybe nose, maybe tongue. And now someone getting a pin put through their tongue. I've seen him with safety pins through their eyebrows. I knocked on a door this week. A guy had a pin through his hand. I mean, through his hand. All that metal on him. Why would someone do that? I tell you why. They're wanting acceptance and approval. They're wanting the blessing from the crowd. Here's some girl walking down the street. Not only is her head shaved, but she's got a mohawk. And not only that, it's dyed pink. And now she's in, it's 90 degrees in Albuquerque, but she's in long black clothing and black boots. And now she's got a jacket on top of that. She's all gothic. Why would she sweat and dress that way in this type of weather? She's looking for the blessing. She's crying out, will someone notice me? Does anyone care that I exist? Hey, I'm over here. Crying out for the blessing. In my day, and I'm kind of older, I'd be sitting in school or someone would be in class and someone would say, psst, hey, Mike, your underwear's showing. And I'd look around, embarrassed, pull my pants up. Thanks a lot. These days, here's how it is. Psst, psst. Hey, Jose, your underwear's not showing. Pull them pants down. Thanks so much. Girls, let me just tell you this. Never marry a guy that doesn't own a belt. If he cannot pull his pants up, if his underwear is showing, and he's a macho man, Scooby-Doo underwear showing. Something's up with that. Why would someone not be able to walk? Because they want to fit in. The blessing. There's a guy named James, lives in San Jose, California. Was in the gangs. I said, James, how'd you get initiated in? He said they had this big meeting in a warehouse. 200 gang members showed up. I just had to run through the line. There was an opening like this, 100 on each side. They had clubs, brass knuckles, whips, sticks, baseball bats. And all I had to do was run through the line and stay standing up. As they hit me, beat me, whipped me as I ran through the line. I said, James, why in the world would you do that? He said, I wanted to be a part of the gang. I wanted to belong to something. He never got the blessing. It was Michael Jackson, way before your time, I understand. Michael Jackson had all these surgeries. He was a cute little boy, the Jackson 5. Darren Robinson, preacher friend of mine, grew up with him. They were in the bars together, playing as little 5- and 6-year-olds. While everybody else was getting drunk and getting high, little Michael was a kid. But his dad just drove him and drove him and drove him. His dad used to beat them. They'd have to rehearse in the garage. They'd work on their dance routine, their singing routine. If they messed up, their dad beat them and beat them. We're going to make money. Michael Jackson had surgery on his chin, surgery on his nose, pigmentation to lighten up his skin, ear surgery, face surgery, jaw surgery. Someone said, Michael, why did you have all those surgeries? He said, because I did not want to look one thing like my father. He never got the blessing. See, inside of every young man, there's 2 questions we ask ourselves. Here it is. Am I a man? Do I have what it takes? And girls ask themselves this question. Am I pretty? Am I worth pursuing? And if we don't have our fathers answer these questions, many times and in many ways, we feel rejected. And through that rejection, we start doing all sorts of things to feel accepted. And we let other people answer those questions for us. Why would a girl who's sweet and chaste fall into the arms of a guy she knows she's never going to marry? She's just going to be a piece of equipment, and he's going to be done with her. Why would she let him touch her and do things to her and compromise her purity? Why would she do that? Here's why. For a few moments, she feels accepted and approved and applauded. You ever been at PE when they chose sides? All right, you're the team captain, you're the team captain. We're going to have baseball teams. All right, I want him, I want him, I want him, I want him. Then you get down to the end. I don't want him. Y'all take him. Well, we don't want him. Y'all take him. He's no good. Y'all take him. Life is filled with rejection. You know what the word reject comes from? It means thrown back. You ever been fishing and you caught a little bitty fish and you said, hey, are you kidding me? Go get your grandfather. And you threw him back. That's how some people feel. We never wanted you. Why were you even born? Hey, throw him back. She was in 6th grade. She came to our church. Her mother was a single mom. They came all the time. The dad had moved to New Jersey. He was out of the picture, no daddy. One day she came, she said, Pastor, did you hear? My mom and dad's getting back together. Dad's moving back in. He's coming back to California. He's going to swing me on the swing at the park. He's going to take me on dates. We're going to the mall. He's going to be buying me new dresses. We're going to sit together in church. That next Sunday I saw her at church. She wouldn't look me in the eye. She stared at the ground. Daddy didn't come back for her. He just came back for Mom. Wasn't long before that little girl was running away from home. Wasn't long before, 7th grade now, the mother found letters from 35-year-old men writing her. Soon she brought home an illegitimate child for her mother to raise. Soon she brought home another child and another child and another child. How come? She never got the blessing. I think of a man that was saved in church in Dallas, Texas area. He got saved and he served the Lord. His dad was a drunk. His dad moved out. No relationship. But this young man at a New Year's Eve service got called to preach. And he was so excited, he at least wanted to notify his daddy. He called a bar and got in touch with one of his friends and said, please have Dad get in touch with me. He said, Dad, I got something important to tell you. Can I meet you on the street corner and tell you what happened this week? I said, okay, son. His dad hated preachers. He thought they were all lazy and liars. So that boy said, hey, Dad, I'm just so excited to tell you, God has called me to preach. I'm going to be a preacher. I heard him tell the story, true story. His dad says, son, you're going to be a blankety-blank preacher. He started cursing. He hit his son in the stomach. His son doubled over. His dad hit him again. He slumped over on the ground. The dad was cursing and kicking. You're going to be a blankety-blank preacher? I'm so ashamed of you, son. I can't believe it. And his dad walked off in anger and finally came back one more time. He said, if you're going to be a blankety-blank preacher, build the biggest church in the world, and kicked him one more time. He prayed and prayed and prayed for his daddy. As far as he knew, his daddy never got saved, and his dad died. Years later, at about age 40, he did become a pastor. A fellow by the name of Elmer Towns showed up at his church, a Sunday school expert, and presented him with a plaque that said, to the pastor of the world's largest Sunday school. In between Sunday school and church, that young pastor took that plaque back to his office, closed the door, laid the plaque on the ground, looked down toward hell. And they could hear him say, hey, Dad, I did it. Hey, Daddy, I did it. Inside of that great man of God was still a little boy desiring the approval and the blessing from his dad that he never got. It's a huge thing. It affects everything. It affects our marriage. It affects our relationship. It affects everything when we don't get the blessing. And I want to say this. He knows how you feel. If right now you're saying, that's me, that's the way I was raised, Pastor. He knows how you feel. Isaiah 53, he was despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. When you don't get the blessing, you hate those that do. When you don't get the blessing, you're possessive of friendships. You're insecure, easily offended. You get depressed, sometimes suicidal, and you get bitter. The Bible says in Hebrews 12:15, looking diligently. It's like you lost your keys. You lost contact lens. You lost your cell phone. You're looking diligently, lest any man fail the grace of God. Fail the grace of God. When you hurt, God gives you grace. When you accept it, you succeed at grace. When you reject it, you fail the grace of God. I'm going to give you grace to get through this. I don't want your grace. Fail the grace of God, and the root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. What are signs that a person's bitter? Anger issues. What are signs that a person is bitter? By the way, rap music. You ever heard of rap music? They didn't have that in the 60s. They didn't have that in the 70s. They didn't have that in the 80s. It never even existed. You know why? Rap music is the music of angry boys. No dad in the home. No dad to teach them how to self-defense. No dad to teach them how to work on a car, climb a tree, defend themselves, tie a fishing knot, shoot a gun. No dad to teach them about life. Missing. So there's that angry music there. Bitterness hurts you, and it hurts others that you're around. If I gave you a piece of paper tonight and said, I want you to write down the names of everyone that's hurt you deeply and you never got over it, would there be anybody on your piece of paper? I've counseled people and I've said, you got a notebook? I don't need a little piece of paper. I need a whole notebook. The people that's hurt me. We used to have a man in our neighborhood. His name was Mr. Markson. I'm sure he's dead now. He was a mean old man. would kick the football, it'd land in his yard. He'd run out, pick up the football, and keep it. He was a mean old man. You know what? I bet he wasn't always a mean old man. I bet he was a sweet little boy at one time, but somebody hurt him. The maniac of Gadara. Jesus gets off the boat, and as soon as Jesus gets off the ship, this naked man with demons who had cut himself, by the way, the cutting, it wasn't popular in the 70s and the 80s and 90s. Teenagers cut themselves. You know why? I've been hurt. I couldn't stop the hurt, but now I decide when I hurt. I'll decide how and how long I hurt. The cuttings, that's all a part of hurt and bitterness. The maniac of Gadara looked at Jesus and said, "Are you going to hurt us too? Are you here to torment us before the time?" He was hurting. Years ago, I was married. I'm still married, same person. And I was getting up in the middle of the night to make sure the refrigerator was still there. I heard a noise. I wanted to get up, just priorities. Check on the refrigerator, then check on the kids, then check on the wife. And I remember I got up, and I'm not going to be too personal. I don't sleep with my dress shoes on. I know you think all pastors sleep in suits. We don't. So I was barefooted. Walked to the refrigerator. Light still works. Everything's fine. Good. Heading back toward the bed. About that time, I hit something in the carpet. I didn't stump my toe. I didn't hit the corner of a couch. Something was in the carpet like a needle. And that needle went into my toe, and then it broke off. And all of a sudden, my toe is now throbbing, and I'm trying not to exaggerate the story. It began bleeding for sure. It's starting to bleed all over the carpet. It's starting to gush. The right ventricle, left aorta, all the arteries. It's gallons of blood. Well, maybe not that much. But anyway, there's blood, there's pain. I reached down, pulled that needle out of my toe, walked into the bedroom with all the fruit of the Spirit. It's 3 a.m, flipped on the light. My wife's name is Verna, and I said, "Verna!" I held up that needle, woke her out of a dead sleep. She goes, "What?" I said, "This is what." I said, "I don't sew, and I don't knit, and I don't crochet, and I don't throw needles on the floor for my mate to step on. It broke off in my toe. There's blood everywhere, and it hurts." She said, "I'm sorry. Can you turn the light off now?" I took that broken needle, and I put it on the dresser. And I think for weeks, I would limp past her, and I would just hold it up. Put it back down. You said you needed counsel from the pastor. I was the pastor. So that's kind of stupid and immature. Well, let me ask you this. Why are you saving your needle? Who was that hurt you? Was it your dad? Was it an ex-boyfriend, an ex-girlfriend? Was it someone that hurt you sexually, someone that hurt you physically? Was it a bully that bullied you? Was it someone that called you names? Who was it that hurt you? And you've never gotten over it. You say, "Well, Pastor, what are you supposed to do with all this stuff?" You got to forgive. Someone says, "You just need to forgive and forget." Well, number one, I don't want to forgive. And number two, I can't forget. But God commands us to forgive. So what is that? Forgiveness is deciding to live with the pain someone has already inflicted on you. Let me ask you, you ever use a hammer? Do they have hammers here in Albuquerque? I've not seen any, I don't think. Anybody have a hammer on you? Okay, anybody ever hit the wrong nail? Here's the nail, and you hit your thumb instead? Did you throw the hammer away? Stupid hammer, I knew it wasn't a good one, and you threw it away? Probably didn't. And here it is. Here's you. Here's Satan. Here's the person that hurt you. Wham! If it wasn't them, he'd have picked up somebody else. He didn't care who it was that hurt you. His goal was to hurt you hard and hit you while you were young, so you'd be bitter and never get saved and never do anything for God. You say, well, what's all of this mean? If I forgive that person, they're off the hook. No, you're off the hook. Because when you're bitter, you think about that person all the time. And you want to be away from them, but bitterness handcuffs you to them. On your wedding day, you're walking down on the greatest day of your life outside of salvation, and all of a sudden you think of that person that hurt you, and they ruin the whole day. Their name, a place, a date, all these memories. And here's what Jesus says. Here's your promise. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. I will repay. God handles business. He handles business. Bitterness is saying, you're too soft. You don't take care of business. No, God says, I'll handle it. The people that crucified Jesus have not yet paid for all their sins. He's going to handle business. My dad was rarely home when I grew up. He was a missing dad. He loved money more than he loved his two sons. He was always chasing money, a covetous spirit. We never had a vacation. We didn't go out to eat often. I remember 2 Christmases my dad was home. I do not remember one birthday he was home. I'd stand in the driveway as our neighbors said, we're going to Six Flags over time. We're going on vacation. And I'd just start crying. And they'd come back and tell us all about the vacation. And I said, when I'm a dad, we're going to have vacations one day. We're going to do things one day. I'm going to take my kids. We didn't fish. We didn't hunt. Dad was just not there. All the hurricanes that went through Louisiana, he wasn't there for that. We had to go through that alone. I graduated valedictorian of my high school. 429 graduates. I was number 1 in the public school. Dad didn't make the graduation. He didn't come. Did it hurt? Oh, yeah, it hurt. It hurt. I remember I was in Bible college. Someone talked about forgiveness. And I realized I'd grown bitter toward my dad. When he was home, I wanted to leave the room. I wasn't close. I felt rejected. I felt no love, no acceptance. I felt bitter. One day in Bible college, I was sitting in the lobby. I said, I'm going to write him a letter. I probably shouldn't have. But back then, we didn't have cell phones. I didn't feel comfortable talking to him. I wrote him a letter. Dear Dad. When I wrote those words, I started crying. And the tears just faded all the ink on the paper. It's okay. I forgive you for everything. And I mailed it to him. Oh, by the way, one night he didn't come home. He was finally supposed to come home. We turned on the television. It was before Wednesday night church. My dad's on the news. He's handcuffed. Largest counterfeiting ring in history. Dixie Mafia, 2 arrested. That's my dad. The next day, the FBI towed his car away. 1,000 years of charges. We didn't know. My dad was a drinker. He was a gambler. He lost $10,000 in a poker game one night. Our house cost $11,000. He witnessed killings. He probably assisted in removing some bodies. He was into racketeering. They blew up banks. They robbed the robbers. He ran with a rough crowd. He got saved. He turned state's evidence. He testified against 20 mobsters and lived. The Secret Service followed me to school every day to make sure I was not kidnapped and tortured. We didn't know till it was all over. We didn't know all this. About that time I saw Dad. He said, son, can you type this letter for me? I said, sure, I'll type a letter for you. Sat down to type it. It said, Dear God, please forgive me for blowing it with my boys. I must have been demon possessed. Please give me another chance. Now I'm crying again as I'm typing it. He was trying the best he could. The rest of my life I could have said, failure! Hey, Dad, you failed. You weren't a good dad. My dad never went to Dad University. They didn't have married couples getaways. Him and Mom never went to that. He did not know. He did the best he could, which wasn't very good. No closeness. But the last 30 years of my life, my dad and I were like that. He got all my sermons. We'd mail him the sermons. He'd say, son, I'm grading all your sermons. That was an A+. Then the next week, son, the Wednesday night, A+. All I made was A+. I flew him to a conference I was speaking at. We sat on the front row. There he is in his early 80s, swinging his Bible, cheering the preacher on. I wouldn't give anything for that. I did my daddy's funeral. I looked in the casket. I had no regrets. No regrets. Daddy's last mafia payoff, he bought the first 3 church buses. The mafia started the bus ministry in the state of Louisiana. God can take a bad thing and turn it into a good thing. What I'm trying to say, you'll never have revival. You'll never do anything great for God unless you get rid of some bitterness in your heart. Whoever it is, you got to let them off the hook. God will take care of it. There's more to do in life. Some of you have knelt at an altar. You've said, oh, God, use me. Give me a ministry. Oh, God. Now, here's how God does ministry. You ready? He lets you get hurt. Then He comforts you. Then He lets you bump into someone else that has the same hurt you've had, so you can comfort them. Hey, ask Pat's the pirate. He had to lose his eye before he had a worldwide ministry. So some of you guys, man, I want to be a youth director. I want to work with teenagers. Well, here you go. Guess who your teenagers are going to be? Hurt kids. I moved to California. 90% of the kids in our youth group had a missing dad. So I could look at them and say, I think I know a little bit how you feel. You, pastor, and you're a pastor, and you know how I feel? I said, I think I do. Well, if you can make it, pastor, maybe we can make it too. He's trying to give you a ministry. So, what do you do if you didn't get the blessing? Introduction long, message is short. Number 1, get it from God. Well, my parents weren't there, and they never said I love you, and they never said I'm proud of you. Okay, get it from God. Ephesians 1, we are chosen, we are beloved, we're adopted in His family. Hey, get it from the Lord. Jesus got baptized. A voice came from heaven. It said, this is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased. In other words, God was saying, that's my boy. You spend time alone with the Lord, and pretty soon you're going to feel like, hey, He's accepted me. He approves of me. He's applauding me. The Bible says we're fearfully and wonderfully made. God makes no junk. If you look in the mirror and say, man, it's just a bunch of junk. Look at how I look. Oh, no. You're a master plan, God's design. My friend Tim Rule, his mother was married 3 times. His dad was married 4 times. His stepfather one day took a gun, walked up to the car, shot and killed Brother Rule's mother, then committed suicide. He was thrown into foster care for many years. At age 15, he got saved. Know what he's doing next week? Running his own teen camp. How come? He never got the blessing, but he got it from him. Mike Johnson, his dad was a preacher at one time. Dropped off Mike in the nursery, ran off with a woman in the church. Mike's mother turned to alcohol, began making unwise choices, marrying different men who beat Mike, who beat his mother. He grew up a very angry man, but he got saved. Now he's pastoring and preaching around the world. How come? He got the blessing from him. Yes, you can. Oh, yes, you can. Number 2, give the blessing from God. Get the blessing, give the blessing. The Bible says they brought the children to Jesus and he blessed them. At our church, when people get baptized, everyone claps. It started years ago. We baptized someone. We had the junior church kids in. They just started clapping. So the adults looked around. Oh, I think we're supposed to clap. So now every time someone gets baptized, woo, they're whistling, they're clapping. You know what you're doing? Giving them the blessing. Give the blessing to your children, parents. Give the blessing to your siblings, brothers and sisters. Give the blessing to the bus kids. Give the blessing to the youth group. Give the blessing to the first-time visitors. We had a kid that rode the bus years ago. His name was Kenneth. Kenneth was the type bus kid, you didn't have to ask if he was at church. You sensed it. Something was broken. Someone screamed. There was blood on the carpet. Kenneth's here. He was that type kid. Maybe he was the missing link between the animal kingdom and the human kingdom. Kenneth never bathed. Same clothes every time he came to church. Yellow teeth. Never brushed his teeth. Hair oily, uncombed. He was 6th grade. Just a wild kid. Well, he graduated into the teen group. I was the youth director. We were having a scavenger hunt. And who's ever been on something like that, scavenger hunt? Well, we put it on steroids. It wasn't find a penny, find a leaf. Ours was get a priest to confess their sins to you. If you have like 40 days and 40 nights. Get a fireman to throw a bucket of water in your face. Get a police officer to handcuff you and read your right. You know, it was crazy. One of them, they had to capture a live cockroach. That's the state bird in Louisiana. Those roaches are so big. You can take 2 of them, stand on them, and you can rollerblade just with 2 roaches. Well, Kenneth ended up in my car. We had like 5 teenagers. Kenneth, man, I get to go with Pastor Ray. He's in my car. We're looking through the list. You know, police officer, find a leaf, find this, get some poison ivy. A cockroach. Kenneth said, I know where there's a cockroach. My house. So we rushed to his house. I'd never been to his house. We rushed to his house. He opened the door, bolts inside the house. We're following him in the house. He goes, there's some. They were falling out of the ceiling. There's some. There were flying roaches. There were big. They were on the wall. They were on the ceiling. Then I'm looking around the house. His parents are nowhere to be found. His little sister's in a crib in the house alone. Dirty diapers all over the house. Ditches stacked. The house was filthy and infested with roaches. Kenneth did not know enough to be ashamed. My heart sunk as he grabbed the cockroach. All right, let's go. We rushed out of the house, just feeling so broken over what he had to live in. Wasn't long before Kenneth dropped out of church. Didn't see him for years. One day we had a visitor come in our teen group for Sunday school, sharp kid in a suit, tie, and Bible. I said, good to have you. I said, who invited you? He said, nobody. I said, you was passing through town? He said, no, I live here. He said, I've been here before. I said, I don't recognize you. He said, I'm Kenneth. Dressed up, sharp, tie, combed hair. I said, no, you're not. He goes, yes, I am. I'm Kenneth. I said, Kenneth, what happened to you? He said, I got a new bus captain. Miss Tanya loves me. She bought me this tie and taught me how to tie it. She got me a Bible. I've never had a Bible before. She bought me a toothbrush and said I have to brush my teeth every day. She bought me shampoo and soap and said I have to shower and suds my hair every day. Miss Tanya says, I'm going to be something. Do you think I'm going to be something? I said, Kenneth, you're going to be something. You know what happened, young people? A beautiful princess humbled herself, leaned over, and kissed an old ugly toad frog and transformed him into a prince. She gave him the blessing. We were at teen camp, Triple S. You've been there, Brother Garraway, Triple S. We brought 99 kids to camp. And we were not the largest group. Brother Vineyard's group was there. Bob Gray's group was there. 160, 140. We had the small group. 99. I couldn't believe it. We lost in volleyball. We lost in flag football. We lost in basketball. We lost in soccer. We lost in diving competition. We lost in ping pong. We lost in Bible memory. We lost everything. The last night of camp, the camp director said, this group better win something or they're probably never coming back. So he said, we're going to have something we've never done. We're having a sit-up contest. I've never heard of a sit-up contest at a camp. I want one guy from every youth group. So they're starting to come up. I gather our little crowd and I say, fellas, who's done the most sit-ups? Some of them didn't even know what one was. One little sawed-off kid, 10th grade boy, Columbus Millet, M-I-L-L-E-T, French. Instead of millet, Millet. 4'6", 10th grade. I said, he said, I did 25 one time, Brother Mike. I said, you're the man, Kenneth. Get on up here. Kenneth got up there. They grabbed his feet. It's about 6 different guys. They said, go. So there it was. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you know how girls are at these things. Let's cheer him on. So all the girls get up there and they start cheering. Go, Columbus, go. Now he's up to 100. He's up to 100. Go, Columbus, go. Go, Columbus, go. C-O-L-U-M-B. Hey, look, don't name your kid Columbus. And they're trying to spell his name. He got up to 200. He got up to 300 sit-ups. All the guys dropped out but 3. He's up to 400 sit-ups. They're, go, Columbus! They're screaming, go! They're fanning him with ostrich feathers. They're feeding him grapes. Some of the girls, I'll marry you if you win. And, 500 sit-ups and 600 sit-ups, 700 sit-ups. I was there. 800 sit-ups, 900 sit-ups. It's just 2 of them going now. 1,000 sit-ups. 1,100 sit-ups. I mean, it's out of control. I said, when are you going to stop? He said, I got cramps. I can't. I'm just up. 1,200 sit-ups. The other guy dropped out, and Columbus did 6 more. 1,206 sit-ups that night. At the end of the service, he was not able to walk to the front to get his ribbon. But I looked at him and I said, Columbus, you set history tonight, son. How in the world did you go from 25 to 1,206? I'll never forget what that little Cajun boy said. Y'all were cheering for me. Y'all were cheering for me. I couldn't let you down. Y'all were cheering for me. I believe with all my heart, there's not a teenager who cannot make it in any of the youth groups if they just had some people cheering for them. Just cheering for them. He got the blessing. I was in a car with a professor at Bible college. He said, so why are you here? I said, what do you mean? I'm here for the ministry. He said, no, who is the reason you're in Bible college? I said, my pastor, Brother Smith. When my dad was missing, on Father's Day, I gave my pastor a Father's Day card. My dad was never around to give one to. He believed in me. I'd come into church, he'd say, man, you look sharp. Nice tie. Wow, come on. He gave me the blessing. I still remember him in the middle of the sermon, and I don't think you ought to do this probably, but he did. He goes, hey, don't drink liquor. Don't drink it. Mike Ray would never drink liquor. I sat there and to myself I said, I won't now. I won't now. He would never go to a movie. I won't now. I won't now. He would never smoke a cigarette. I sure won't now. Not anymore. He believed in me. When I graduated for high school, it was on a Sunday night during church. We were going to miss part of church. Myself and 2 other seniors from our youth group graduated. So we're about 30 minutes late, but we were going to make it to church. We kept our cap and gown on, kept the hat on. We probably shouldn't have done this, Pastor, but we made a scene. The pastor, the Bible says. So us 3 seniors walked all the way down the aisle, sat on the front row. We wanted someone to kind of notice, we're not at the prom. We're not getting drunk. We're not getting high. We're not with some immoral girl. We're at church. It's graduation night. We're at church. We sat down. Pastor stopped the sermon. Time out. Church, do you see what just happened? We got 3 of our seniors here tonight. They could be in the world. This is their night. They're at church. I'm so proud of them. People broke out into applause. I just sat there like, hey, they noticed. They noticed. He notices. You ever get the blessing? If not, you can. Are you given the blessing? If not, you can. I close with this story. We're finished. There was a school teacher, happened to be a Catholic school, private school. She taught 8th grade math. Somehow during the semester, she kind of lost control of the kids. They kind of got the best of her. You know how sometimes teens can kind of drive the teacher half nuts? There's a lot of bickering and arguing and the kids with each other and kind of fighting and feuding. So she got this idea. One day as the students came in, she says, no talking. She had typed every kid in the class's name on a sheet of paper and put that sheet of paper, run it off, put it on everyone's desk. She said, students, here's what I want you to do. No talking. I want you to write down something you admire or something that's good about each of these students. It was real quiet. You could see students writing. Fold the paper. There's no discussion. She took the papers. The next day, she compiled the list. Every good thing that was said about a certain student, it just had his name and all those good things. And it was sitting on their desk. All they saw was the good things everyone said about them. And as they came into class, she could hear them whispering. They noticed. Really? That's what they think? That's cool. The whole atmosphere of the class changed for the better. That was 8th grade. A few years passed. It was during the Vietnam War. Some of those seniors in high school got drafted to go to Vietnam. Others, a year or so later, they got married. Some went into business. One of the students was killed in Vietnam. Not too large a town. They shipped his body back for the funeral. Building was packed out. His body's in the casket. People came and filed by to see pay their respects. The parents were standing at the casket of their son. And finally, a lady walked by the casket, and the parents said, we bet you're our son's math teacher, 8th grade. And she said, I was. How did you know? And they said, we knew you'd be here. And they pulled out a sheet of paper and unfolded it. Said, you recognize this? And she said, yes, I typed that. It had his name on it and all the positive things that everyone said. The parents said, he cherished this. He unfolded it and folded it and looked at it all the time. He had it on him when he was killed in Vietnam. It was inside his uniform. About that time, a young couple spoke up and said, we were in that same class. We're married now. Ours is in our wedding album. We cherished it so much. Then another guy spoke up and he says, I was in that class. I own a little business now. I framed mine. It's hanging in my little office. It changed my life. You say, is it really that big a deal, Pastor, if you get the blessing or not? Oh, yeah. Esau never got the blessing, and he fathered a heathen race. Jacob got the blessing, and he wrestled with an angel, and God changed his name to Israel, Prince of God, who through his lineage comes Jesus Christ. So the question, did you ever get it? If not, you can begin tonight. He loves me like I was his only child. Never have to stand in line. You're his favorite. If Jesus had a jersey, it'd have your name on the back of it. If only one person could be saved in the universe, he'd have died just for you. That's how special you are to him. Get the blessing from him. Don't wait on anybody else to give it to you. And then get busy giving the blessing to others. It'll transform your life. It'll transform your youth group.